Good morning, everyone. Welcome to FOF. Those of you online, welcome as well. I got nothing to say, so let's get right into it. Let's stand. Calling out your You left the glory of your throne to bring this runaway back home. Only you can, only you can. You give me love, you give me life, you keep me dancing through the night. Only you can, only you can. My heart beats only for your glory. My hands reach up for you to hold me. My soul sings, follow you with holy. My feet dance to your rhythm, to your rhythm. Every beat is calling, every beat is calling out your name. 'Cause every beat is calling, every beat is calling out your name. Here we go, hands together, come on. Jesus, you're the only reason that I'm even breathing. I am wide awake. Move me, your freedom is consuming. I feel you rushing through me. I'll never be the same. My heart beats only for your glory. My hands reach up for you to hold me. My soul sings, follow you and holy. My feet dance to your rhythm, to your rhythm. Every beat is calling, every beat is calling out your name. 'Cause every beat is calling, every beat is calling out your name. 'Cause every beat is calling, every beat is calling out your name. Welcome to worship, everyone. Come on, let's turn it up. We're gonna sing it out for all the world to hear. Oh, oh, oh. There's love for everyone. A new day has begun. Something to shout about. Well, let it be known that our God saves, our God is raised. We lift you up, up. Let it be known that love has come, love has won. We lift you up, 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 whoa. Nothing can stop us now. No one can keep us down. We found our
Good morning, Fellowship of Faith. So good to see so many alive here today. Hey, let's do something. Do me a favor. Turn around, wave to one of the cameras. Welcome the live streamers who are in with us today. Give them a big shout out here, all right? Thank you for joining us online as well. You can grab a seat when you're ready, all right? Those of you who don't know me, my name is David Guidini, pastor here at Fellowship of Faith. Just on behalf of the band and so many of the volunteers working behind the scenes today, thanks for coming to spend the next 50 minutes or so just worshiping with us, learning about God with us. Our hope today is that you come face to face with God even more, discovering how big He is, how awesome He is, how powerful He is, and how it goes beyond simple cliches. We're looking forward to jumping in this morning to this new series. I'm going to hold it off for a few moments, though, before we get there. Something that you can do right now that we would just love to make a touch point with you is if you could just text the word "here" to this number you're going to find on the screen, 815-240-0607. Just the word "here," no periods, no emojis, no exclamation points. It'll screw up the system. Just here. And it's just kind of a nice little way that we can kind of keep in touch throughout the week, and especially if you're new with us today. When you text it, if it brings you to a field asking for your information, if you don't mind, maybe give us your name, give us your email address. I'd like to reach out to you personally, actually, and just thank you for coming and see if you have any questions about our church or even about your walk with Christ or your own spiritual journey. Likewise, if we can be praying for you, same number, text the word "prayer." It'll bring you to a field, and you can type your prayer request in right there. Our elders will be praying for you this week. Guys, I don't like to talk about this a lot, but I think it's something worth celebrating. We came to an end of 2020, and in the middle of a pandemic, we had one of our largest giving years ever, and we're ahead of budget and all that kind of stuff, and it's because of you, and I just kind of wanted to give a big shout out to you for the way that you've been sacrificing and giving and being generous. Honestly, a lot of people don't realize this, but congregations like this, we're 100% supported by what comes in. We don't have like sugar daddy denominations that are kind of paving the way for us, or grants or government support or things like that. It's just what we give is what we can do. And guys, in 2020, you helped this church prevail and thrive, and we are so poised for 2021. Just rock on that. Speaking of that, we have 7 ways to give here at Fellowship of Faith, if you'd like to just kind of keep contributing to that. It's a lot, right? 7 ways, like, can I even count that high? But, you know, some people, maybe you're like me, I'm kind of old school. I still like writing a check. And if you're someone who likes to shove it in an envelope or just like dump cash in the plate or something, we've got these buckets behind the rows here in the sanctuary. Just there's envelopes there if you need one. Feel free to just drop something in on your way out. But if you're more kind of like into the, online banking type of thing, text to give is really simple. Just like you give to so many other things through your phone, you can give to FOF just by texting the number 815-201-1499. If it's your first time, it's literally like 30 seconds of prompts to go through, one time recurring, whatever. Or maybe you like to give like Amazon, you want to go in on there and you want to actually physically click it that way. Well, go to our website, fellowshipoffaith.org. Go to the giving webpage. Easy, you can donate online there. Or maybe you just like the banks to take care of it for you. You set up your utility bills this way, your cell phone bill this way, the auto pay. You can do that with your offering as well. Go to our giving page as well. You can find the instructions how to set that up with your bank, and it's pretty simple. And a lot of people here at FOF have really been taking to that because it just kind of keeps it steady and predictable. But there's a couple of other ways as well, and we don't really talk about them. And they're more about a long-term strategy than a today strategy. Because we all know in our budgets we have expenses we have today, but we also have to prepare for tomorrow, right? 2 big ways that people are doing this and churches are doing this are through securities transfers. You might have stock, you might have mutual fund, it might have appreciated. You can give that direct if you want, as a larger gift, of course, or even a smaller one. And you don't have to pay any capital gains. You don't have to pay any taxes, and the receiving organization gets all the benefits. Pretty cool way to give maybe a one-time gift of some kind. And lastly, I'll talk to you about this, and I'll be talking to you about this a little bit more, but here at Fellowship of Faith, we're talking about how do we do ministry more than just for today? How do we poise the next generation for ministry. People, after the time that I'm gone, after the time that some of you are gone, for my kids or even my grandkids, what would have happened if people 70 years ago would have done that to poise Fellowship of Faith for today? You're not talking building campaigns. You're not talking stuff like that. We would be so situated for such next level ministry. So let's start today for the future. And so we begun talking with people about estate planning, about leaving things in their will, about setting up endowments. And I'll tell you, my wife and I are looking at this, and we're not looking forward to the grave anytime soon, all right? We can start at any time on this. And if you're interested in any of those, I'm just going to say, reach out to me. We'd love to get you some more information. Or forgive me if I sound like a broken record. Really, go to our giving webpage at fellowshipoffaith.org. You're going to find some more information on each of these things I just mentioned, and we'd love to help you navigate that terrain if you're thinking something along those lines. Okay? So guys, finally, last thing I want to share with you today, but I'm really excited about this, is something called faith training. Who here, let's give a shout out if you've heard of faith training at Fellowship of Faith. Be bold on this, okay? So, for those of you who are uninitiated, faith training is a series of spiritual practices, or maybe better put, exercises, that we encourage you to do during the week to grow in your relationship with God and grow strong in your faith. Let me put it this way. If you want to get in shape, you don't work out once a week. You try to make it daily, right? Well, if you want to get strong in your relationship with God, you don't come to church just once a week. You learn how to take what you've done in church once a week and bring it into your life in a daily kind of way. We've got a new round of faith training that's starting tomorrow, but I've invited someone to come up who's been doing faith training and started faith training, and she's going to tell you about her experience with it. Would you welcome this morning with me, Reagan Gadini?
Hello, everybody.
So for those of you who don't know Reagan, the last name is not coincidental. We got like 19 Johnson families here at Fellowship of Faith right now, I think, but it's still one Gadini family. Reagan is my oldest daughter and is a sophomore at Lindenwood University. You're even like wearing your colors this morning, and goes back down to school next week.
Yeah, I leave Saturday.
All right. Are you looking forward to that, or are you crying that you have to leave mom and dad here? And yeah, you're not going to get an answer on that one, all right? So Reagan, I'd love it if you would just share briefly some of your experience with faith training, particularly as it relates to Isaiah. And we've been doing these Bible studies at home for a little while now. And I'd just like it if you would share your experience with that and how it all started.
Yeah, so this kind of started actually a little under a year ago. I was down at school, I was doing a bunch of Bible studies, and we were going through Ruth, very in-depth, very intense, and I've never really done anything like that before, and I really enjoyed it. So then when COVID hit and we got sent home, I was at home and wasn't doing an in-depth Bible study, and I was really missing out. So I came up to my dad, I'm like, hey, we should go through Revelation, because I've never read through Revelation, and it's very complex, very intense. So having someone who knows what's going on would be super helpful to me. So the two of us, we went through Revelation, finished that, very awesome. I highly recommend you read through it. And then we started at Genesis, but we ended up not finishing it together. I just finished it on my own. But then we went through Job, finished that, and now are going through Isaiah.
So you're only going to be here for another week. And I think we've literally finished pregame and 2 chapters of Isaiah, right? So why are you starting something that we have no intention of finishing in the next week? Because I don't see 64 chapters happening between now and next Saturday, right?
I hope not.
Yeah.
That would be a lot.
Yeah,
So we were going back and forth because we wanted to start this up again while I was home for winter break about what book of the Bible to go through. And we were thinking maybe a shorter one that we could get done in the time that I'm here. But it was actually my brother Ben who got excited about Isaiah because we're talking about it here. And I'm like, that would actually be really cool to go through it with my dad, as FOF is going through it. So even though we won't finish it while I'm here, we can pick it up when I come back, which is what we did with Job, because we didn't finish it in that small time.
Yeah, and it's cool because so many people, I think, get wrapped up in this angst that if I start something, I have to finish it or it has to be on time. And it becomes more about like achieving it than it does soaking it in. And yeah, if this takes us 2 years to do, so be it, you know?
Yeah, I was also excited about Isaiah because my mom loves Isaiah. That's kind of what sparked her flame with God. So by being able to go through it not only with my dad, but with my mom and her input and take on it, that's been super amazing.
Okay, so like to quote Mom, even from last week, okay, it's in the Old Testament, so yuck, right? It's in the prophets, double yuck. It's poetry in the prophets, triple yuck. I mean, this book has everything against it as far as like honest Bible reading goes for people. So what have been some of the things that you've been discovering through Isaiah, things that have been challenging to you, but also things that have been kind of getting under your skin?
So I actually really love that kind of stuff, the very complex, in-depth stuff that I can't just understand by reading it by myself. So this is actually really exciting for me to go through it. Something that's kind of been like really struck me is that in society today, or maybe just what I've been exposed to, is the church shares God's characteristics about being loving and kind and patient, which he absolutely is. But in the Old Testament, he's intense. And in chapter 1 of Isaiah that we read through, God is talking to his chosen people in Jerusalem, and he's saying, I turn my ears and my eyes away from you. I don't want your offerings. And it's just crazy to see that this loving, kind God is also the same God that, you know, is kind of scary talking to his chosen people that way.
So what's that doing for your faith? I mean, how are you responding to that?
I don't even know. It kind of just strikes me in awe. I don't know if speechless is the right word, but like understanding God's character and how he's everything, and I cannot comprehend how incredibly amazing he is.
So tell me some of the things maybe that you've been learning or seeing that's, you know, where God's just like blowing open your field of vision here, or your faith, or you know what I mean? You mentioned the one that's scary. What are some of the scary? But what are some of the other things that you've been seeing going through?
Just kind of how God is with the people no matter what. Like I explained earlier, how God is turning his eyes and his ears away from his chosen people. He's a major, finding a career. There's a lot of unknowns out there. So knowing that God, he's got me no matter what.
Okay, so quiz time. Give everyone the geopolitical situation behind Isaiah.
Okay, yeah. One thing that I've really loved about Isaiah going through it with Dad is that I don't know any of the cultural context, anything about that, so it's kind of confusing just going into it on my own and not really know what's going on. So yeah, we've been like referencing 2 Kings and Chronicles, and let's see if I can get this. Correct me if I'm wrong.
Yeah.
So
this is everyone's like greatest dream, by the way, is to be called on stage and asked about the geopolitical situation of Isaiah before, eyes.
Okay, so within the book of Isaiah, there's the nation Israel, the 12 tribes, and at some point, the northern 10 tribes of Israel break off, become their own nation, and keep the name Israel, but often call themselves Ephraim. So then the two remaining tribes, Judah and Benjamin, keep the name Judah with Jerusalem as their capital. And Jerusalem is the chosen city of God. So then the nation Assyria, which is an empire taking over lots of other nations, they at some point take over the northern 10 tribes, Israel, capture Judah, and are now circling in on Jerusalem. But then I'm not going to tell you what happens. You're going to have to read it for yourself. But it's something amazing.
Okay, like I want to give you a hug right now, just like as a dad. That was that was quite awesome, all right? Yeah. Wait a minute, for extra credit, what's the capital of the 10 tribes in the north of Israel?
I don't remember that one.
All right. You did great on that. And, if you could give people here today maybe one bit of encouragement or recommendation in trying to do something like this. Because, we've been reading Isaiah, and I know, believe me, I see it. Like half of you roll your eyes. You're like, oh, are you kidding me? How are we going to get through this book? And it's fine for Sunday, but how do I do it personally,
Yeah,
what can you encourage them in?
One thing that I found in myself is to try and do it as regularly as you can. I am not a person who's good at sticking with routines and being disciplined. And I found that even those times that you're exhausted, you just don't want to do it, it's the last thing you want to do, kind of forcing yourself, be like, no, this is God's word, I need to learn this, I'm going to do it. And those times that I have been exhausted, but we have gone through it anyways, I've never regretted going through it. I've learned so much about God and his character and his word that I never regret not doing it, even though I am tired.
And have there been things like along the way, I mean, being someone who's, as you said, it maybe not disciplined to it, or just gonna go to bed, like what helps keep you doing it, motivated, I guess I should say, in the moment when you're ready to throw in the towel?
There's this one thing that I saw the other day. I saw it on a TikTok, which I realize is not the most credible resource, but it was really cool. It was this guy explaining that if there's like an idea or something that pops into your head, you have 5 seconds to act or not act on that until your natural habit takes over. So for example, if you're waking up in the morning, your alarm goes off. And let's say normally you're a person that hits snooze and just likes to sleep in. When the alarm goes off and you wake up, you have 5 seconds to do whatever you need to get out of bed until your natural habit takes over and you just hit snooze again. So I've been kind of applying this to our study, like the times I'm exhausted, I don't want to do anything. In those 5 seconds that I'm telling myself in my head, oh, I'm tired, I don't want to do this, I'm like, no, we are going to do this. So that's been it's definitely hard at first, but it's really changed how my discipline is growing and how it kind of gives me encouragement to keep going. So I'm like, yes, I can overcome my natural habit of not wanting to do it and being tired.
So encouragement to these folks here today?
Yeah, my encouragement would be, like I said earlier, just try and get into it as regularly as you can. But also, if there's been a time like that you don't do it for a little bit, don't beat yourself up. It's okay if you go a few days or however long without going through it. But another piece of encouragement that's been amazing for me is to find someone or a commentary or something that knows what's going on with the book, whatever it may be, but especially those like Isaiah or Revelation that we went through that are super complex. Having someone to walk you through it and really help you navigate what's going on has been super amazing and has really helped me stick with it, because those times where you don't know what the heck is going on, it kind of, I don't know, just kind of makes you not want to do it as much.
And I would say, even ironically, that being able to do it with you, or you and mom, or you, mom, and Ben, even at times, it's been the encouragement for me too, because believe me, it's easy for me to throw in the towel at times too and go, man, I got other things to do, or I'm tired, or I'm distracted, or I'm not in the mood. We've all been there, right? And knowing that there's someone else that I'm doing it with, it kind of gets you going. It kind of gets you doing it. It's been incredible doing it with you. I'm bummed you're going back in a week, but I'm looking forward to picking it up, and I want to thank you for coming on stage and just sharing this morning. Good stuff, all right? Thanks, Drake. And so faith training starts again tomorrow. If you want more information on this, make sure you're signed up for our e-news today, because it is coming out like this afternoon, and you can go to our website, go to the Faith Training webpage. There's 3 main tracks that you can go through. There's a mild track, which is just dipping your toe in. There's a moderate track, which is kind of getting in waist deep. And then there's the intense track, which is jumping into the deep end, depending on where you feel you're at or how you want to challenge yourself. But in this round of faith training, I want to emphasize one thing that Reagan brought up at the end. Do it with someone else. This can be your girlfriend. This can be your spouse. This can be your kids. This can be your parents. This can be your family or a portion of your family. All 5 of my family aren't doing it together. All 8 of your family don't have to do it together. But sometimes it might be better with someone outside of your family circle. It could be a friend here at Fellowship of Faith. It could be a leader here at Fellowship of Faith. It could be someone who has no connection to Fellowship of Faith, but that you can kind of share this with. It will sharpen you. And I encourage you, figure out who that person is. But if you're kind of looking at the deer in the headlight going, oh, like you have no idea where to start, email me, pastor@fellowshipoffaith.org. And what I will do is help partner you up with someone else that you can touch base with a couple of times each week through this month of January to make the most of this personal experience. Likewise, if you're doing it with someone in your home already and you got it, or whoever, shoot me a line as well. I'd love to hear who it is. I just kind of get geeked out by that kind of thing. Would love to encourage you on the way and maybe even give you tidbits as you make this happen. But we encourage wherever you're at, wherever you're starting, just do it, right? Just start, make it happen, and see what God does in the midst. All right, I'm going to hand this over to Gwen Johnson, our Next Gen director. Kids, this is a message for you.
Good morning, Rock Kids. I'm so glad to see you this morning. Today, we're going to be talking about how God is sometimes versus other things in our life, or fighting other things in our life. And sometimes those are good things, sometimes they're bad things, but they're things that pull us away from God, or that we might look to instead of looking to God, which is really where we should go for all of our help and our strength, is to look to God. And we really should look to God when we have questions and we're looking for answers too. And so I have a question today. If I showed you this paper and told you that I want to be able to step through the paper, or put the paper over my head and put it all the way down, do you think I could do that with this paper? Even if I gave you scissors and you took a while and you tried, I don't know if you would be able to make this paper big enough so that I could put it all the way down on top of my head and neck. I don't think it would work. And I think sometimes that's what we do. We try and figure things out by ourselves, and it might not work. You could try it at home and see what you can do, but it might not happen. But if we look for answers in people that really know, like in God, or in our moms and dads, in our pastor, we look for answers in places that are good, we might find that there's a way that it can happen. And God has all those answers. So today I'm going to show you how we can fit this piece of paper all the way over us if we want to. All right, so to start with, you're going to take your paper and you're going to fold it the hot dog way, okay, straight across. And once it's folded, you're going to use your scissors. And here's what you're going to do. You're going to take your scissors and you're going to cut lines all the way down, but you're going to cut opposite. So you're going to start on one side and cut, not all the way through, stop at the edge, and then go to the other side and cut, and then stop before the edge, all the way down. So it'll look like this, and it'll kind of be like an accordion. All right, now when you're done making all those cuts, and it'll take a while to cut, then you're going to take your scissors and you're going to skip the first row and skip the bottom row, leave those ones. But on the side that's folded, you're going to take your scissors and you're going to snip down the sides, like kind of like this. I'll show you. Just like this. You just cut them all apart, all the way down the side. And when you do it and you open it up, you're going to see that you can put this paper all the way over your head. So if you seek answers to your problems from God and from other people that God has put in your life, like your parents and your teachers and your pastor, then you'll find the answer to the questions that you have. So this week, I hope that you go and seek answers from God, in the Bible, and from those people that you can trust in your life.
The Bible loves rivalries. Read the pages of the Bible, you are going to find rivalries set up from the beginning. I mean, it goes all the way back to Cain and Abel, okay? You have Jacob in Esau. You have Pharaoh in Moses. You have Jesus and the Pharisees. But it's not just at the individual level. Because what you see is rivalries even with Israel as a nation itself. We could think of David and Goliath maybe as one of the most favorite, but what that represents, because we see Israel versus Egypt, Israel versus Canaan, Israel versus Assyria, Israel versus Babylon. These rivalries that continue to come up through the Bible, these head-to-head contests where you're kind of left as the spectator. Who is going to come out on top? Who is going to win? We all kind of get into these things, don't we? These rivalries. You guys have your own favorite, like in your life? I was just like looking up what like some of the classic sports rivalries are. I mean, like just shout some out. Like what would you give is maybe like favorite sports rivalry? Bears-Packers. This close to the border, it's like the most self-evident one there is, right? What else you got? Cubs-St. Louis, Cubs-Cardinals, okay? Cubs? One. Cardinals? Nobody likes baseball. Okay, all right. Let's switch this way. What if we go to like, the New Zealand Black versus, or the All Blacks out of New Zealand, right? Versus South Africa. Because if you're not into baseball, you must be into rugby, right? All Blacks? Yeah, okay. Crickets? Okay, South Africa? Let's start here. Who has heard of the nation New Zealand? All right. And South Africa? Okay, maybe college sports are more your scene. Duke or North Carolina? Duke? Come on, guys. You got to give me something here to work with. Let's go this way. Ohio State or Michigan? Ohio State. Michigan. You know what it convinces me here this morning? You guys aren't fighters, you're lovers. All right? Rivalry's got no place in your life, but I tell you this, you'll find them throughout the Bible. Israel and Egypt, Israel and Assyria, Israel and Canaan, Israel and Babylon. And now what I want you to do is climb into the worldview of the Bible a little bit. Because behind each of these rivalries is something greater. Just like rivalries today almost have puppet masters, if you will, powers that be, that seem to be controlling the pawns or the pieces on the game. It's the same in the pages of the Bible. Because in the worldview of the people, especially the Old Testament, behind these rivalries of Israel and Egypt, Israel and the nations, Israel and Canaan, Israel and Assyria, you follow me, right? Israel and Babylon is something else, something deeper, something more sinister, if you will. The gods. Because behind every rivalry the people of Israel find themselves embroiled in is a deeper rivalry, if you will. A rivalry between Yahweh and the gods. And this rivalry between Yahweh and the gods finds itself percolating up into the rivalries between God's people and those that stand against them, and more importantly, what stands behind what stands against them. I want to talk to you today about the gods, little g, plural s, the gods. In the Old Testament, they were polytheistic, which by definition means they believed in all sorts of gods. The same is actually true in the Greco-Roman world, the New Testament world as well. They believed in a world of thousands and thousands of gods. And here's how it worked. They would take a look at the world and they would see, this world is a powerful place. There are forces at work in this world that are big, mysterious, and unknown. And at times, these forces seem very methodical and predictable. But at other times, there's no telling what these forces are going to do. So they could look up and go, it rains. And with some level of predictability, there's rain. And every spring, we can expect rain is going to come and start to kind of base our lives on a predictability around this power that we can't control. But there's times when it just doesn't seem to happen the way it's supposed to. Where spring comes and it doesn't rain. Or summer comes and it rains too much. Where the powers around us are doing things and interacting in ways that we find ourselves victims to. Well, any fool can catch a handful of rain and look at the water and go, it doesn't seem to have a personality. It doesn't seem to have a mind of its own. Therefore, there must be things behind these things. Powers at work. Or maybe better, personalities that control these powers, and they would personify them as gods. And one of the hardest things, I think maybe you would agree with me in this world, is when you find yourself trying to do life before things that are bigger than you, more powerful than you, that you cannot control, that are unpredictable. It leaves you kind of in a victim's place. Would you agree? And isn't much of our uncertainty in life and the terror that we carry in life rooted precisely in these bigger, greater, stronger things that are out of our ability to manipulate, control, or direct? And so in the ancient world, the people turned to the gods. They turned to these powers, these beings or personifications behind the powers that they realized that would be, trying to get them to do what they wanted them to do, trying to maybe get them off their back. Unlike the way that we think about God today, is someone that we have a relationship with, someone that we root ourselves with love and devotion and loyalty. The way of the Old Testament, the way of the New Testament, the polytheistic worldview was very different than this kinds of thing. No, the gods were ones that you did not really enter into relationship with, as much as ones that you either sought to bribe to your side or get off your back. I've shared this with some of you before, but the best analogy I can give to this is to think of them like the mafia. Very few people today enter into a personal relationship with the mafia. But in many parts of the world today, our own country included, organized crime continues as a greater power to direct and dictate what is going to be. That my business is dependent and at the mercy of what organized crime in this area says it will be. That my livelihood and my life, depending on the course that it's taken, is going to be influenced and impacted by these powers that be. So what do? Well, one of two things. You try to get them in your favor, to at least be batting on your side, or you try to buy them off so that they will go their own way. This is the mentality of life with the gods. Not only in the time of Isaiah, but even through the time of Jesus. We stand in this world with these powers around us, powers out there, powers in here, that we feel unable to control. So we set up rituals. We pray to them, we call to them, we sacrifice to them, we bribe them, or try to buy them off. So at best they'll help me, or at worst they'll leave me alone. And it gets difficult when you sit there in this ancient world, realizing like we do today, that there's so much going on around us that we have no ability to dictate. Wondering, what do I do in the face of it? when it all comes crashing down around me. Welcome to the rivalries of the Bible. Israel and Egypt, Israel and Canaan, Israel and Assyria, Israel and Babylon, the people of Israel standing before these nations that are bigger, stronger, and able to chart the course of their destiny. Going, what do I do in the face of it? And of course, it begs a question. How do you know which God, which power, which one to turn to, which is stronger? Well, I guess for the risk of oversimplifying here, the way they did it was the way that we do it today. You see what works. That person's more successful. What are they doing? I'm going to do that. That person is stronger and healthier. Who are they turning to? I'm going to do that. This nation is powerful, prospering. What power is behind them? I'm going to turn to that. And so the temptation was always there for the people of God to look at these other powers, these other gods, wondering, am I better off there? Am I safer there? Is this the one whom Yahweh contends with that I might be better turning to? This is the world of the Bible. And the world of people for thousands of years of history in many parts of the world, even through today, of how to deal with the powers, with the gods. Now, I think today, the difficulty of something like this, of talking about something like this, is it kind of, well, the average American, if he struggles with anything, he probably struggles with even believing in one God, let alone a multiplicity of gods, right? And so when we talk about the gods, it kind of feels quaint. It feels a little bit silly or superstitious. Something that more simple-minded people were duped by back then, but maybe not someone nearly as educated or sophisticated is me. But I want to challenge you on this because I think it comes down to your definition of God. If I talk about an idol, you probably think of a little tiki engraved thing that someone is bowing down and worshiping to or giving some sacrifice to, right? And if I talk about a god, you think about some power that might be in the universe, be it Zeus or Thor or Artemis or whoever it might be from mythology, these fun to read but hardly believable stories from age to go. But there's this Augustinian monk, a former Catholic priest, who wrote this book, and he gives a definition of God that kind of strikes me today, something that I think transcends beyond an us versus them mentality when we talk about the gods. His name's Martin Luther, and he wrote this book called The Large Catechism. And right in the beginning, commenting on the 10 Commandments, he says this: the first commandment, you shall have no other gods before me. If you've ever learned the 10 Commandments, you know this one, right? You shall have no other gods before me. I think it maybe even demands we stop and pause just for a second to realize how big a deal the gods were in the biblical world, that the number one commandment on the top 10 deals with them. You shall have no other gods before me. But this is what I'm more interested in. He writes this: to rephrase this, you are to regard me alone as your God, Yahweh says. And he asks, what does this mean? How is one to understand it? What is it to have a God? Or, to put it this way, what is one's God? Listen to his answer. To whatever we look for any good thing. So to whatever we look for any good thing and for refuge in every need, that is what is meant by God. To have a God is nothing else than to trust and believe in something from the heart. As I've often said, it is the trust and faith of the heart, nothing else, that makes both God and idol. If your faith and confidence are directed rightly, then your God is the true God. But if, on the other hand, your trust is in something false, if it is misdirected, then you do not have the true God. For these two, faith and God, belong together. And listen to this last sentence. To whatever you give your heart and entrust your being, that, I say, is really your God. Let me say it again. To whatever you give your heart and entrust your being, that, I say, is really your God. So let me ask you, to what do you give your heart? To what do you entrust your being? In the times of fright and in the times of uncertainty, what do you seek for deliverance and refuge? From what is it that you derive your strength and inner sense of being? By this definition, that is your God. And you know what strikes me by that? We who think that we are monotheists or atheists, or maybe even agnostics. The reality is, I think each and every one of us are polytheists and idolatrous to the core. Because which of us can't say that we find, well, to use the words again, that we give our hearts and entrust our beings? Which of us can't say that we give our hearts and entrust our beings to things other than Yahweh? If you do, that becomes a part of the pantheon of your gods. And it sobers me to realize that those people from the days of Isaiah weren't nearly as superstitious or simple-minded as we think they are. All of us have gods. Or maybe I should put it this way. Let's use the New Testament term. Because oftentimes in the pages of the New Testament, it won't talk about the gods like Isaiah in the Old Testament will. It will use a different word instead. Powers. So let me phrase it this way. What are the powers in this world to which you seek your help, entrust your being, and give your heart? Because whatever label you want to put on it, that power is your God. And there's not a one of us who wouldn't look at the world to say that there are powers at work around us. There are social powers, cultural powers, political powers, internal powers. Each of us can look at things that stand outside of us, that are bigger than us, and that can overwhelm us. And each of us, I think, can look at things inside of us in the exact same way. Yeah, there's powers in this world, and the New Testament isn't afraid to talk about them. And the power that they hold and use and give sway, because I promise you this, the powers of this world affect your life. They will interact with your life, and they will demand your allegiance. Not just one, but many. The powers of this world are out there, and they, at some level, will seek to demand your allegiance. And this happens, of course, in all kinds of ways. Sometimes they will threaten you. Give me your allegiance or else. Turn to me or else. Pay homage to me or else. I think of the church of Ephesus. In the New Testament, Paul writing to, Ephesians, to the Ephesus, but also 1 Timothy, where the power they feared was related to childbearing. Imagine living in a world, women, where odds were in your favor that 1 out of every 3 of your children would die before they hit 2 months old. Imagine living in a world, women, where your chances of dying were 1 in 4 every time you had one. Imagine for a moment, women, living in a world where there was no such thing as birth control to stave childbearing off. What do you do? How do you live in a world with that threat, with that power? The ancient mythologies would talk about this personification behind it, this goddess, if you will. Her name was Artemis. She was the patron saint, if you will, or the goddess of childbearing. Highly ironic, because she was known to be fiercely beautiful and fiercely adamant about virginity. So you're a woman and you find yourself pregnant. You're about to give birth. What's going to happen to me? What if Artemis strikes me down? In fear, you would go to her temple. You would give a sacrifice. You would try to placate her and buy her off. And so Timothy is written in the Bible. Paul writes to this pastor in Timothy, trying to lead people through this fear of the powers that be. You don't have to engage in worship to this goddess Artemis. No, Christ will save you through childbearing. What powers, though, are you turning to? What are you seeking? What are the powers that seek to threaten you, that you find yourself tempted to give allegiance to, so what they wield doesn't come smashing down on you? But it's not just through threats. Because sometimes the powers of this world, they take a different tactic, and you know it full well. Sometimes they try to entice you, seduce you, win you over, show you the good life and how good it can be for you if you would only. This was the tactic of Satan in the desert with Jesus. If you will just bow down and worship me, Satan told Christ, all these kingdoms of the world will be yours. Pretty hard deal to pass up when the alternative is a cross at the nation's hands. This is what the book of Revelation is about in the New Testament. The power of Rome, the seduction of Rome, personified as a beast, capturing the people of this world in awe and wonder so they would bow down and worship, even described as a prostitute, a harlot, one who is seductive, one who seeks to win you over, one who you want, trying to win your allegiance over to them. But I think most about the powers that are inside. What are the things that rage inside you, at work inside you, that seem to drive you and dictate what you do? You know the struggle full well. There's not a one of us that's really integrated and whole, is there? No, instead, each of us battling things at work, within, motivations, feelings, thoughts, things that seem even foreign to us at times, yet so a part of us. And we find ourselves near powerless before them. Again and again, I love how the New Testament puts this. Listen to what Paul writes. He says, we know that the law is spiritual, but I am unspiritual, sold as a slave to a power that he calls sin. See if you resonate. I do not understand what I do. For what I want to do, I do not do, but what I hate to do. And if I do what I do not want to do, I agree that the law is good. As it is no longer I myself who do it, but it's sin, this power living in me. I know that nothing good lives in me, that is in my sinful nature, because I have the desire to do what is good, but I can't carry it out. What I do is not the good I want to do. No, the evil I do not want to do, this I keep on doing. Now, if I do what I do not want to do, it is no longer I who do it, but it's this power, sin, living in me that does it. So I find this law at work. Can you resonate? When I want to do good, the power of evil is right there with me. For in my inner being, I delight in God's law, but I see another power at work, a law at work in the members of my body, waging war against the law of my mind and making me a prisoner of the power and law of sin. Which of you has never felt this final line? What a wretched person I am. Who will rescue me from, fill in the blank with that power? Who will rescue me from that? Who will rescue me from that? Who will rescue me from this power of death? Who will rescue me from this power of sin? Who will rescue me from this thing inside? Who will rescue me from this thing on the outside? Because we all face it. We all face powers that are bigger than us in this world. Who will rescue me from it? And it can lead us to this place of looking at the rivalry of God who invites us to trust in him, but this power that seems so much more active, so much bigger, so much more alive, and doesn't it sometimes? Going, who do I turn to? How do I hedge my bets? What power is going to win? What I love about the rivalries of the Bible, though, is as hard as the struggle might look to be, time and time again, there is no doubt. Who is more powerful and who is going to win? I think of some of these rivalries in history that prove to be no rivalries at all. Now, I grew up on Nintendo. How about you? Mike Tyson's Punch-Out. Do you ever have it? Do you ever play it? Do you guys remember the Mike Tyson era? Remember like when he was 20 years old, the youngest heavyweight fighter ever, and this guy was like the new Muhammad Ali. This guy was unstoppable. Anyone remember that fight he had with, what was it, Marvis Frazier? Do you remember this one? Remember Joe Frazier? Was that his name? His dad? World heavyweight champion before him. And now Tyson versus his son. People in dollars adjusted today. Spending anywhere from $3,000 to $13,000 for ringside seats. Do you remember this match? It was like 4 punches and that was it. I mean, could you imagine if like you had to go to the bathroom before you left and you were 3 minutes late and you bought a $3,000 ticket and you show up and it's like, that's it? Oh, this was hailed as the rivalry of all time. There's no rivalry at all. Tyson dominated that fight. And after that, there was no questions of rivalries. We knew who was going to win. A little closer to home for me. I remember when UFC began in '91. Hoist Gracie was on the scene, reintroducing Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu back into the Western Hemisphere. And the rivalry between him and Ken Shamrock, back and forth, more and more. And since then, the UFC has tried to capture these rivalries ever since, poising people against each other. Who's gonna win, right? I wanna show you a video of the shortest MMA match in history. Happened in Vegas back in July of 2019, just a year and a half ago. okay? I'm going to show you the whole match. Here it is.
Jason Herzog back in there for this one. Ariani Celeste is here. Brittany Palmer, Brooklyn Wren also on hand. Game Bread is in the building. And these guys just flapping gums at each other any chance they get. The fight clock is brought to you by Modelo. One of the greatest knockouts you'll ever see. Askren stiff as a bull.
Did you even see what happened? Like I was watching this at home, and I had to put it into slow-mo just to kind of even like figure out like, what? Here it is in slow-mo, okay? Here it is in slow-mo. Show it again. No volume on this. The match starts. And there it is. Even in slow-mo, it's like, what? That's it? And there are powers at work facing off in the ring. Yahweh and the gods, Yahweh and the powers, Yahweh and the forces that be, that seem to dictate this world and dictate what's within. Can I ask you this question? Who is going to win? Because Yahweh says it is no contest. This is at best a 5-second MMA fight. Are you kidding me? You think this is a rivalry? No, the Bible makes it clear. When it comes to the powers at work in this world, they don't hold a candle to the God of the universe, whose power beyond power brings the win. Let me read to you what Isaiah says. From Isaiah 46. To whom will you compare me, or count me as equal? To whom will you liken me, that we may be compared? Some pour out gold from their bags and weigh out silver on the scales and hire a goldsmith to make them a god. And they bow down and they worship it. They lift it on their shoulders and carry it. They set it in its place, and there it stands. But from its spot, it cannot even move. The one cries out to it, it does not answer. It cannot save him from his trouble. So remember this. Fix it in your mind. Take it to heart, you rebels. Remember the former things, those of long ago. I am God, and there is no other. I am God, and there is none like me. I make known the end from the beginning, from ancient times what is to come. I say my purpose will stand, and I will do as I please. And I tell you this morning, seek God, and that's the power you'll find on your side. Better put, seek God. And when it comes to sides, you can be on His. And you will find that no matter what the powers of this world might be, outside or within, nothing can hold the slightest threat to the power of Yahweh. To whom do you entrust your being? To whom do you give your heart? There are plenty of contenders willing to step in the ring. But to whom will you give yours today? Now, as the band comes up, and we close out with worship this morning, I want to read to you the lyrics of a song that we're going to sing. Why do I do what I don't want to do? Why do I love what I should hate? Why have I sold myself to be a slave? Why do I give my heart away? I'm tired of singing songs of victory when I've been living in defeat. I'm done standing with the enemy. This is a war won on my knees. Who will rescue me? Come wash me clean and set me free. Because I want to see these giants fall, and I want to crash through every wall in between you and me. Give me faith to believe that I'm going to see these giants fall. Yahweh, I give my heart to thee. Let's rise and pray with me. And I want to speak to all of you polytheists here today, whose hearts are divided, whose loyalties are split. Yahweh invites us back. No matter how many times we've replaced him with something else, he invites us back. And maybe you've been seeking a different power here, or hedging your bet. Look, he wants to be it for you. And he says, you can come to me freely and openly without fear. But he says, do it. Don't delay. What did Reagan say? 5 seconds. Do it. Don't delay before the evil power robs the desire from your mind and heart and will again. I invite you to make God and invite God to be the one in which you trust, into whom you give your heart today. Would you do that? If you want, just pray with me. We have so many gods before us, O Lord. And there are so many of them that have captured our hearts, to whom we have given our beings and our wills, to whom we have bowed or paid homage, which we have bribed to keep at bay, or been enticed by and desired. Oh God, forgive us today. Forgive us for every time we bow the head and bow the knee to another power. Forgive us for every time another power captures our being. Forgive us for being so easily enticed and seduced, God. So fickle in our loyalty and our faith. Oh, increase it in us today. God, we give our hearts to you. Lord Jesus, we give our heart to you, our will to you, our being to you. We entrust our being to you. For some today, maybe this comes with a sense of fear, because there's an unknown here, but may we trust that, God, you are good and your mercy endures forever. For some, it comes with a sense of shame, but may we trust that you forgive our sins and wash us as white as snow. For some, it comes with a sense of joy, of strength, of jubilation, that yes, God, again, we can stand and give our hearts to you. Strengthen us by your power. Pour your spirit into our hearts today. You are our God. We acknowledge that. We seek to be your people. By the blood of your Son, thank you. Thank you for inviting us to that and letting it be. Thank you, God, that we have the privilege of being known as children of God, children of Yahweh, children of you. Oh God, we give you our loyalty today.
Why do I do what I don't wanna do? Why do I love what I should hate? Why have I sold myself to be a slave? Why do I give my heart away? I'm tired of singing songs of victory when I've been living in defeat. I'm done standing with the enemy. This isn't war when on my knees. Who will rescue me? Come wash me clean and set me free. 'Cause I wanna see these giants fall, and I wanna crash through every wall in between you and me. Give me faith to believe that I'm gonna see these giants fall, gonna see these giants fall. Come and set my feet on solid ground. Oh, shake the fear that's holding me. You're the power I need to tear it down. You're the only hope I see. Who will rescue me? Come wash me clean and set me free. 'Cause I wanna see these giants fall, and I wanna crash through every wall in between you and me. Give me faith to believe that I'm gonna see these giants fall, gonna see these giants fall, gonna see these giants fall. My hands are open in surrender. I wave my white flag high. You alone are my savior. I want more than to survive. 'Cause I wanna see these giants fall, and I wanna crash through every wall. 'Cause I wanna see these giants fall, and I wanna crash through every wall in between you and me. Give me faith to believe that I'm gonna see these giants fall, gonna see these giants fall, gonna see these giants fall. I'm gonna see these giants fall.
There's words of a prayer that we're going to put on the screen. And as you look at these today, I want you to think about it in a different way. Think about it as a prayer of saying, to whom do I entrust myself? To whom do I go towards looking for help, rescue, and strength? To whom do I give my allegiance and my loyalty? To whom do I give my heart? Because that's fundamentally what Jesus is calling us to pray. And so if you'd like, pray with me this morning. Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be your name. Your kingdom come, your will be done, on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our trespasses, as we forgive those who trespass against us. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil one. For thine is the kingdom, and the power, and the glory, forever and ever. And may Yahweh, the only true God, the one true God, the power above all power, and the God above all gods. May He be the center of your life, your hope, and your destiny today. May He bless you, keep you, and shine His grace upon you. May He look upon you with favor. Know that in Christ He does. May He give you peace. God bless, guys. Thank you. Thank you so much for coming to worship today.
Take this life, forever I will call it yours. And take this life, 'cause you're the one I'm living for. And I give it all to you. Yeah, I give it all to you. Love so great, it's on my heart to beat again. Your praise will never be upon my lips. And I give it all to you. Yeah, I give it all to you. Yeah, your love is better than life, better than life, better than life. Oh, your love is better than life, better than life, better than life. So I give it all, give it all, give it all, give it all to you. Oh, I give it all, give it all, give it all, give it all to you. To you, to you, I give it all to you. Hands held high, I surrender everything I can. 'Cause at your feet, I'm finding everything I am. And I give it all to you. Yeah, I give it all to you. Hey! Your love is better than life, better than life, better than life. Oh, your love is better than life, better than life, better than life. So I give it all, give it all, give it all, give it all to you. Oh, I give it all, give it all, give it all, give it all to you, to you, to you. I give it all to you. You're so much more than I could ever hope for. You're so much more than I could ever hope for. You're so much more.